smorgasbord. So, hi, this is Chris Eischen. This is the Modern Dad Council. I have with me today Jay Forty of the Get Your Kids Ready for Life podcast and the Greatness Zone. I also have Eric Lehman of the Game Changer Movement. And we are going to talk today just kind of about life, some different things that we're going through and struggling with. So just before we started recording, I was sharing with Jay and Eric kind of some of the stresses that I've been going through in my life lately. And a lot of it's been around the inability to say no. Right? When you say, Jay, I think you hit it right on the head there, and it's like I have that feeling or that need to try to do it all.
That's such a parenting thing too. I mean, that we have all of this pressure and obligation wherever we got it from. You know, it might have come from our parents, it might have come from our church, or all of the things about what's important, and the world has dictated to you what is important. But I think the reminder is, for you, what's important. Now, you do have to make choices, but what are your choices in this? And if you could discount or quiet the judgmental voice in your mind and look at all the data about it, well, just look at the information. What is it that needs to be done, and what fits you now, and what could be done in some other way? And then maybe you're not quite so emotionally connected to it being you, because one of the options is find someone else for it. Some of the other option is no. Another option is not now, or not like this. Those are all there. But sometimes our mind only says yes, no. And you really have lots of other options about every one of those.
Right. So it's about, being open and aware of those options, right? I mean, we talk about awareness a lot. But even, being in that practice of that process, I still, we all are going to get overwhelmed, and I'm just at this point today for my personal life where I'm feeling like everything's like I'm just barely breathing.
Chris, though, and Eric will chime in on this because I think this is right up your realm too, Eric. That I think sometimes we get pushed to our point of too much before we address it. I don't know why we are that way, but we are that way. I'm at a point where I can't stand it anymore. Even though I knew I was crescending into this, I'm still here, saying yes to this and to this. Even now, every time I say yes, it's going to be, there's no way I can do that. But what would it take in that moment to be open enough to say, what else could happen here? If it's not me, who is it? If it's not like this, how could it be? If not now, then when? And to give ourselves that option so we don't have to get to catastrophe before we say, oh, it's time to do something.
Mm-hmm. No, you make a really good point. Like for me, I saw this coming. I've been feeling it I did a good job of it a few weeks ago when it started to get to a certain point. It was like, oh, I need to do some work and figure out how I can, ask for help, because that's always not that easy. And then I was like, okay, I got to a point where I was feeling all right, and then it's like, okay, I can start taking on a little bit more. I can take on a little bit more, and then right back to it, and then it's like I took on so much right at the right time. It's like, oh.
Yeah, and the pot boils over, and for some reason we need the boiling pot, in order to say, oh, I've gone too far, and maybe there's a dad thing in that. Maybe there's a man thing in that, that, we'd be a wuss, perceived as a wuss if we couldn't handle all of this. So, bring it, keep throwing it on. I can work out, I can handle this, I can run, I can string the lights, I can put the tree up, I can get the job done, I can cook, it's, or maybe you can't. And what would it feel like if you said, well, that's just too much for me at the moment?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what do you think about that?
Well, there's a verse in the Tao Te Ching that I love during, especially I think, holiday season, which is like, there's a time for being ahead and a time for being behind. And sometimes I just laugh and I'm like, oh, this must be a time to be behind. And I feel like it sort of takes the charge out of it. Like, I mean, here we are, modern dads, like, and we get to be modern dads, and what does it mean to be a modern dad versus the old dad, and the old dad had to do, like, there was a lot of have to, like, in that job description. And the new dad is the get to world, right? And so, like, we've done a few episodes to talk about, shifting from have to get to. And then I think what I'm understanding more is that it's no longer about time management, it's about energy management. So, like, with technology, with all these other enhancements and efficiencies that we're developing, we just need to make sure that we're in the right energy so that we can say yes to whatever is in alignment with who we know ourselves to be. And that's why, like, your family meeting, vision, Jay, is like, have a family meeting with yourself, like, and say, what speaks to my values? How do I win where I need to win today, so that I feel like I've completed a day, and how do I feel about letting a few balls drop, and it used to just be whatever the least expensive ball was, that's the one that would drop, like the one that wasn't bringing in as much money was the one that just organically fell to the bottom. And so that was, like, time with our kids, and that was time with cause-related stuff rather than, money, income-generating stuff. And now the new dad, modern dad, gets to say, oh, wow, like, where do my values get served? Where do I get to sing as me? And where does my energy, kind of gravitate towards anyway? And how do I spend more of my day in that energy? So, I think the script is just flipping in so many different ways. So I think the first part is being gentle with ourselves and saying, we no longer have to drive our dad's Oldsmobile. Like, what it looked like to be a dad and a man, a while ago is not what it looks like now, So, and I feel like, and I don't want to kind of sidetrack things, but, like, there's no better day than yesterday in my world to kind of ground that, because, like, yesterday being the 3-year anniversary of the shootings at Sandy Hook Elementary School, right? Like, that was, that was a day on my calendar that I was, like, gearing up energetically for, only just to be present with what showed up, and that was my promise to myself. I was like, I'm just gonna do whatever I can to get everything else out of my, my way, so that I could just be present with what was supposed to show up in that day. And so, that was how I lived into my promise to myself. And it was a really powerful day, and perspectives showed up that I never even considered before. But it was only by making space for it, and so, like, I don't want to dwell on all the things that came up, but I just want to say that, like, how do we set our intention? By making space for what we care about, and how do we align with that every day?
Well, and I think that's a really good point, Chris. If we're just talking about some of the things that you're dealing with, and Eric, I love your comment that, energetically what matters to us, because financially or, advancement would always take kind of our dad's mindset, if do it because it will generate more money or advance me in my career. And now we throw a new mix into the modern dad saying, well, emotionally, how do I feel and what is important to me? And it is fair to have that in the equation. So, Chris, you may find that nonprofit work that you do has to stay because it really charges you. And the other things about making money is, well, not now, or at least not in this way. And here might be the other places we can consider of what needs to come off the list. And that would feel really different, I bet. And I bet some of the argument, the self-argument, the self-talk that we have would challenge our own decision that we would pick something that doesn't pay over something that does pay. And how are we okay in that conversation saying, well, what matters more? True, if the money matters more, then we should do it. But what matters more might be, helping other kids or helping other kids in front of our kids so they see and learn this, or being really present at a Christmas party and not, thinking about what are the 15 other things that should be happening at this moment. I share that. We have a great dinner party here at our house tonight. We've got, 2 other couples coming, and it's my favorite, time, and I am determined not to be running through my head all of the things that are not getting happened or not happening tonight, because I really want to be present to all of the, the time that we have with these 4 other really amazing people. And I know that if I think about it, I'm, all right, dinner's over, I should be back up at the computer. There's like 100 things I got to get done. And tonight I am working hard to say there's nothing else that needs to happen tonight other than to really be here and have a good time.
That is not an easy task, is it?
No, not in my head.
No, I struggle with that same thing because I work from home. It just as you, Jay and Eric, and it's so easy to get distracted on what it is that you're trying to keep your attention on. So for me, if my kids are here and I need to get some work done, it's easy to get distracted because you got the kids running around, or vice versa. The kids are here and I should be doing something and be present with them. And instead, what am I doing? I'm in here just playing around on the computer. I mean, I'm working, but still, I don't need to be doing that now. I'm choosing to, right?
Right.
So that's a really good point, and it takes this. I brought that up today specifically because I think it's important to understand that this is like a constant practice. This is something that we are always going to be doing, and we're always going to get to that point where we're like, oh man, we took on too much, and that now we get to find new ways to release that, and eventually we can get to a point to where we're better balanced. But man, that's a long practice.
Well, I mean, I think it's a lifetime practice, right? I mean, it's like learning. I don't know that we ever really get it, but I don't think we're supposed to really get it. I think our lives are a series of too much, slow it down, too much, slow it down. I know very few people who, and Eric, chime in on this, who have chosen the pace that they want to be at. The world delivers to them what the world delivers to them. Then the question is, how do I want to show up to it? And I know that sounds a little out there from a dad's perspective, but that is truly what's happening. The world sends you what the world sends you. You might be fine and everything's good, and all of a sudden one of your kids gets in trouble, or man, there's a grade that looks really low, and now I'm really upset about that. And so there will be an event. I guess what is the self-talk and the self-value and the approach when things seem to start to tumble differently? How do you bring yourself back into a space that feels really good?
So here's a comical example of this, like last night. So like I've been burning the candle at every single end right now, and I truly don't know if it even mattered that I did what I did. So like I went gangbusters, and I got this kind of thunderclap launched, and I was excited that it could have potentially reached 470,000 people, right? So I needed to get a video, made, and I needed to do all these different things, and I was like, I literally stayed up until 5:30 a.m. on like the morning of the the 3-year anniversary of the shootings at Sandy Hook, and then I fell asleep at 5:30 a.m. and woke up at 11 a.m. an hour and a half after my launch, right? After the virtual launch, So, I did all this, work getting ready for this moment, and I actually slept through
your moment,
actual moment. And here's the way to make it extra comical. So last night I'm now in this new circadian rhythm where I can't get to sleep until 3, 4 in the morning, and I'm watching Eckhart Tolle talk about presence, and I had to watch it twice
To pay attention.
because I didn't get it all the first time because I wasn't fully present watching this thing on presence. So it was just like, and I feel like that's the whole, lesson right there is like, how do I slow down to speed up, and how can we do what's meaningful rather than what's practical, or how do we do what's what's purposeful, rather than what's profitable, and how do we have the faith that doing what is purposeful is the most profitable thing to do.
Right.
And that's that's the big lesson or conversation from here on in. It's like, I have this belief and I'm creating this movement, and we made some mega commitments and put intentions into the universe this weekend, and now it's just like, oh, cool. Like, first, slow down. First, like, celebrate that. Like, you just did something.
Yeah.
My earlier way would be, okay, you just booked a mega facility. Fill it. Like don't even pause and celebrate that you just booked a mega facility and that you set an intention with the universe. Like, don't take a breath. Go fill it. And I don't know where you all went, but that's not the new me. Like, the new me is like, okay, I'm gonna, so I mean, like, I sat in the hot tub for 15 minutes yesterday, and I was just like, wow, we just did that. Like, and then I went to fill it, so like, it was still like, and I feel like those 15 minutes were gold, like, they were everything my energy needed and more. But the old me wouldn't have taken those 15 minutes. I would have set another carrot in its place, so to earn my hot tub, and so like I'm getting better myself at like taking those 15 minutes and like letting things in before needing to just be the driver, the doer. I think it's about being, so I don't know if that's relevant or just
It's absolutely, brother. That was right on. It's taken on too much, and then when you have something to celebrating the fact that you made an amazing accomplishment, that's awesome.
I think that the big thing that I heard in what you said, Eric, is who do you have to be, to show up that way?
Mm.
How present do you have to be to the way that you look at things to find out of those things what's helping you and what's not helping you, and the ability to call it out and say, oh, this is what I would normally do, and now I see that this is better. That little moment of stopping and noticing, and then saying, what are my other choices when I notice this, I think is this beginning of the great growth that all of us are trying to do. And the reason why I think it makes sense in this modern dad conversation is, the stop and notice what you always did versus what you now could or should, or no, not should, could or want to do, creates a change in who you are as you approach your things. So now I'm back to, so who are you becoming? How is the world changing you? And in the change, how are you showing up bigger and differently and better to all of the components of your life? From the complicated things like, what do I do first and how much of this, to, can I spend a really quiet and truly intimate moment with my kids, present enough to be there as they unwrap their gifts, or as we go shopping, or as whatever is talking about from the holidays. But I think that this is a reminder that that can't happen until there's some deep internal changes that have to start to brew. And could we be open enough to those changes? Could we see them, and could we accept them as potentially a new way of being? And in that new way of being, could we show up more significantly to the things that we're doing? Or as John Kabat-Zinn always said, and then I love this, that he says, your doing comes from your being. The things you do come from the fact that of who you are. And if who you are isn't delivering on your doing well, then how do you need to reconnect or grow into or be aware of? What has to happen in your being so that it is positively affecting your doing? It's taken me a long time to be okay with that phrase. I heard it initially and then said, well, I just have to write it down because I'm not sure what that means. And little by little, I get it and I really like it. That I have to change from the inside out to affect the things that I'm doing. So, Chris, what change internally has to happen so that the things that you're trying to do become clearer for you, easier for you about what you do and what you do next, what you do at all and what you do next. And that work might not be just selecting things, but what's the 15 minutes of quiet that you ask for guidance or look for, to trust your own intuition so that you can determine of what's out here. Let me be impartial as I'm looking at it, not judgmentally, saying, okay, here's what it all is now with this clarity, because you are now a wiser and more connected person, more present person. What do I want to do? And that may look like it takes time, but it takes very little time for the dramatic impact it could have. And I think that's what John Kabat-Zinn was talking about. If you could do your doing, a match or affect your doing based on who you are, then you get so much more done because you're really intentional about what you do and how you do it, rather than default into doing what always happens. Sorry, that was a load.
No, you're right on there, because that's exactly this crap I'm going through. It's like, I'm allowing life. I mean, this happens to all of us, and that's why, again, why I wanted to bring it up. But it's about, holy crap, I have taken on so much. I'm overwhelmed. And it just kind of sneaks up on us at times. You get, when you're, I don't know, I find when I start to get less present, it escalates really quickly to the level of not being truly present that I get to.
Can I read you something? How many of you get the Notes from the Universe by Mike Dooley?
Oh, I love them.
Yeah, he sends one out. So this is today's. It says, Jay, because I know he's talking to me. It's not possible to significantly change your life for better or worse by manipulating the material world. Not by working harder, not by studying longer, not by schmoozing, not by sweating, not by fasting, not by the hair of your chinny chin chin. I always do that.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, but great change is inescapable when you first begin manipulating the world of your thoughts. So that's what we're talking about. The being comes from who you are, and those thoughts affect how you do. So that part of you is affecting. So, what changes do we need to make as dads in the way we think about things so the impact of what we do is different? So it isn't working harder, fitting more in, staying up later. It isn't, at least according to this. It's what do I think about? And back to Eric's comment from the beginning, what generates the energy that I want, or is the energetic field that I want to be in, and that's going to pull me there. So we can look at that list at the beginning, Chris. We can look at your list, and you've got 20 things on it. We can do the absolute secular thing that Steve Covey says, right? What's important and what's urgent. Do the important and urgent ones, then do the urgent ones, then do the important ones, whatever. You can do that. But you're still doing the same thing, which is going back to the world and letting the world tell you how it has to be. And Mike Dooley's comment in this quote was, come at it from the other way. Show up to what is important, and then you will sift through the things and then make a better choice about what happens. You don't need to stay up to midnight to get it all done, because some of those things shouldn't even be on your list. Right? If you were to come from that other place. And so that's what I meant about who are we becoming, to be able to look at the world that way, to then make those choices instead of letting the world's busyness. And I'm struggling tonight just for dinner. I know we're cooking some really cool stuff, so I can't wait for that. But Oh yeah, you should be here. You should really be here. But the commitment not to let the noisy world say, I know, but this has to go tomorrow, and you made a commitment about this and this and this. It's tonight. Tonight we're off. The phones are off. Everybody leaves their phone on the way in. Nobody takes the phones. And when that could happen, we're starting to see what it would be like to be different with each other, instead of letting the world push us into, here's what you have to do. So sorry to get on the heavy stuff, but you asked. So.
No, I think it's great, and I think it's highly important for me to get that coaching. So thank you, Jay. But how many people are watching the show or listening that are kind of going through the same kind of struggles that I'm having?
Well, particularly at holidays. I mean, the holiday just exponentially raised the things that you need to get done, and all of them have a timeline.
Right.
Certainly, by the time you have to go to Grandma's house, you need 15 gifts wrapped this way, these people addressed, and this stuff made. Okay, everything else just got moved.
Yeah.
Or you say, here's how I want to celebrate, and because of that, we're not buying gifts. We're going to do these things instead. You could. It would be very different, but you still could.
That just triggered a story from this past weekend that it's totally a modern dad story, so I love it. So it was Hanukkah, right? It was like the last nights of Hanukkah, and we were figuring out, like, we have one night where there's no dance rehearsal, like, late into the evening. So it was Friday night. It was our shot at Hanukkah. So what does modern dad Hanukkah look like? After solo dance rehearsal, is 2 nights before the kids said, oh wow, well the Nutcracker is playing on Friday night and it could be our only chance to go. And there's nothing I wanted to do less than watch the Nutcracker. So if I went to the Nutcracker with them, like, I would be giving them a gift and doing way more charity than I think I wanted to do in that moment. So it was just like it was this instantaneous process. So at some point we were sitting at the Indian restaurant, which is the best way to celebrate Hanukkah, right? And we're talking about how to get everyone to feel like we fully celebrated Hanukkah the way we wanted to. And so it turned out that 2 of the 4 of us really wanted to go to the Nutcracker. So then it almost turned into the fact that Talia, my eldest, was going to pay for my son to go to the Nutcracker as her gift to him because she hadn't yet got him anything. But then it turned out that my youngest decided, oh, I want to go see it too. So as we're walking to the theater, I just, I go there and I'm still tired because I'm doing all this other stuff, in my world during the day and not sleeping much at night. And so we get to the ticket, whatever, where we buy the tickets, the box office. And I'm looking at the prices, and it's like $12 for kids and $17 for adults.
Oh, wow.
And whatever. I mean, it doesn't even matter how much money it was, but I'm like, if I spend $17 on a ticket, that's a $17 nap. I'm literally gonna, if I am sitting in this seat for any length of time watching ballet that I saw last year and my son was in it, which kept me awake, but I have no son in it this year, even though he was misprinted in the program. But anyway, so I tell the kids, you know what, you guys go, you go to the Nutcracker, I will come and get you at the end. And so I had the most amazing walk through the Ithaca Commons while they're sitting and watching the Nutcracker. I show up an hour and a half later, and they just comp me in, because it's not over yet, but whatever. And I got to watch the second act and be there in the same room that they were watching it in. I wasn't with them, experiencing it with them, but everybody won, but I would have taken on so much guilt 5 years ago I would have been like, oh, I was in scarcity about money. I was, like, I wasn't with them. I wasn't a good dad. And now I'm just like, that was perfect. It was so perfect. I found a book, like the treasured writings of Khalil Gibran at the local like used bookstore, and like it was just 2 days after seeing The Prophet at the movie theater. I mean, life is amazing when you don't take on the guilt that we used to take on. So, and I couldn't have scripted it any better. And like nobody said, "Oh, Dad, you didn't, you missed this." They were totally in their moment, and I was in mine. So, that's the modern dad Hanukkah that I wanted to share about. But it was ripe with so many different lessons, because like there were so many shoulds or possible guilt trip, opportunities that
stories that we tell ourselves.
Yeah. So just to go ahead.
It just made, to me it's what I call improvisational parenting.
Mm-hmm.
So modern dad Hanukkah was, hey, let's show up to what's going on here, and in this moment, let's say, what do we want to do, rather than here's what that script. That's the difference, I think. So the improvisational part of it says you have to show up as who you are, and you were tired and not that interested, and that's fair. And they were excited and interested, and okay, so that's the set of news that we have. Then how do you respond to this situation with these kids in this moment? Was, hey guys, how about, and that's that's one of my favorite questions. What would make this better, or how about, or maybe we should try, and could, in that process of doing that, we challenge some of those scripts that play in our head about here's how it has to look. And if we do that, then there's a winner and a loser, in it, because it's what is the way that we could show up and get as many people winning about what it is that they want, so that they're happy and feel great in this moment. So, the more I think about it, I think the biggest thing that's a challenge for us as parents is that we're so busy living an outdated script. We're using the script to a movie that's in a different movie. No wonder the dialogue doesn't make sense. What if we just showed up and did dialogue based on this movie? And this movie is these kids in this moment, in this situation. And then I think we could also toss away some of the labels about what moms do and what dads do. Now, this is what a parent does in this situation, whether you're a mom or a dad, because that's what this kid needs, and that's what this situation requires. So I think there's a big lesson in dads, and who are we becoming? Well, what if we became true parents instead of, this stereotypical understanding of what a dad is? Because in that moment, we would have either played small, played short, or not even played at all, because the dad script says this is what we do and this is what we don't do. So to me, improvisation says I don't use the script. I trust that whatever I know and whatever I have for experiences will be enough for me to ask some really important questions in this moment and figure out what to do next. And whatever it is, it's perfect. And that's what they say in improv. Whatever it is perfect. It comes out as it's supposed to come out. And if in this moment you don't like where it's going, well, then the next moment you shift it. So you might say, okay, guys, let's do this, and you know what? I'm feeling really weird about that, or this kid doesn't want to be there without you. Great. So you know what? Change of plans. What is it?
Shift.
Yep.
Just keep shifting.
Yep. Yeah. And there's a great quote, I can't remember. I forgot how it goes. Script change. That's it. When something happens, go, nope, script change. Just time to change it. Change it up. And I know this is really hard. We throw it around like it's no big deal. It's huge, because we are so connected to doing the repetitive pattern dad stuff that when someone says change it, you're like, I don't trust that I could change it. I don't trust that I could know what to do, because I know this is what I've always done. Yeah, but you're smarter than you realize, and you're braver than you think, and you should try this. And what's the worst that could happen? I mean, that's a classic coaching line. What's the worst that could happen? Somebody gets upset. Okay, so then you'll handle that. And now all of a sudden this stuff isn't quite so life-threatening.
And you really only have to do it for 2 days, today and then tomorrow. So you just keep doing it today and tomorrow. You keep doing it today and tomorrow.
Yeah. Don't have to look too much further than that.
Right.
And not even tomorrow,
Right, that's true. Yeah.
Listen to Eckhart, and he was challenged with a question once, and he said, someone asked him if he believed in reincarnation, and he said, well, if any time you believe a thought that is not you, you are incarnated as someone, then yes, we are reincarnated multiple times a day, and definitely every day.
Yeah.
So like it's our choice to align with any of the thoughts that we thought identified us yesterday, and to identify as such. So like, and I feel like there's a difference between being a dad and what it means to be a good dad, right? Like, what does a good dad do? Like, I mean, I don't know if a good dad shows up to the Nutcracker and then falls asleep and snores and distracts the rest of the people. But I think this whole idea of good, is its own layer. It's another part of the onion that we get to look at, and so I feel like, Jay, what you just said about honoring that it is a hard process and that we're all at different places on that process, and I mean, yesterday, as spiritual as I know myself to be, I was in a funk, but not in a bad one, but I was just I just couldn't imagine what it would be to send my kids to school, 3 years ago, and to have them not come home, and I just couldn't get past it, and I was just like, oh, cool, cool and sad and hard. It's the moments you can't get past are the moments that make you you, and you know what I mean? So I broke down during the show that I normally do once a week, and I was just I just unraveled because I just couldn't get past that, and so I guess as modern dads, we're not here to say this is an easy job. Parenting is much like the Peace Corps, the toughest job we will ever love this much. And so there's nothing in me that wants to make it look easy. I just want to make it look worth it. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
So, absolutely makes sense.
Yeah. So I just, I wanted to just share that, to be real with what it is we sit here as modern dads and we are all perfectly imperfect. We're all on a path of learning and failing and getting it wrong, and learning, from getting it wrong and failing again, and so I think that's maybe my commitment as a modern dad, is to fail more, to boldly try new things and report back, because it could have gone the other way. They could have been Dad, we missed you at Hanukkah, some Hanukkah celebration that was, you weren't even there. So we tried it on and it worked. But it totally could have backfired. Mm-hmm. So and sometimes a few weeks ago, choosing Thanksgiving in Alaska, may have been the wrong choice. It's what it was, but so but yeah, I really appreciate you guys. I feel like the last thing I want to do is make parenting look easy,
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I think we certainly don't do that.
Right.
The things that we talk about and the fact that we do talk about this, I think is a testament to how hard it is and how we're passionate passionately connected to helping people see that it's hard, but see that one of the ways around or through that is this conversation, the power of conversation, the power of challenging our internal scripts and our internal default mechanism to be open to new things. And we each come at it from very different views. I love the diversity of who's on this Modern Dad Council, because none of us have it figured out entirely. We're just working our own plan, and then we see and hear from each other. And this is as much, I think, not just for our listeners, but for each other. I come in here, we're taking notes all the time, which is, I think, really healthy. I wanted to throw one thing out. I know we're almost done on time, but I just wondered, or to want to bring up as a topic about dads and holiday traditions. About, and I'm not going to bring us back to family meetings. So I'm pulled there very strong. But what are some of the traditions that we each look forward to at this time of year? So, Chris, let me ask you first. For this to be a wonderful Christmas, that you get to have that, a great holiday, what are a couple of things that, I think we talked about this before, what are a couple of things that you hope happen because they mean a lot to you and you would like to see that?
Well, this year I get to stretch. And when I say stretch, I mean I get to stretch my experiences to experience something new. So I have a girlfriend, Samantha, and last Christmas we just spent the entire holiday with my family, and she didn't really, we went to her mom's for part of a day, but for the most part it was all doing my family stuff. And this year it's the opposite. So I'm doing her family things, and that's kind of a wrench in the whole routine, my Christmas tradition, because I love having Christmas with my family. My mom's got 9 brothers and sisters, and then they all have cousins, and so we get together for Christmas, and we have cards, and it's just, we do a white elephant, and then we have that little thing where you can steal the gift, and it's just this big fun game, and there's a bunch of us, and we're having a blast. It's nobody's, I don't know, my family, I've never really dealt with people getting drunk and fighting and any of that. It's always just I don't know,
I never heard that rolled into a holiday tradition.
You don't know what you're missing.
No,
it's not Christmas. No, I'm just kidding.
Christmas brawl. No, I say that because this kid I worked with went to his girlfriend's family's for the holiday. This was for Thanksgiving a few years back. Well, one of the brothers was in the military, and the other brother was a cop, like a state trooper cop type. Well, they both come to Christmas all dolled up in their uniforms or whatever, and for whatever reason they were both carrying their sidearms. Well, they start drinking at the holiday, which was the tradition. And then they're pointing their guns at each other.
Oh,
and this isn't funny, really, because the one brother shot the other brother and killed him. And the thing is this was his first time at his girlfriend's family function, and the one brother shoots and kills the other brother. So, and I'm like,
you're not anticipating this is going to happen at Sam's, are you?
No, but that's the ultimate horror story of going to your
you win.
Girlfriend's family.
That's one of the worst things I've heard. So
that was he came back and he's all I was like, how was your holiday, man? I don't really want to talk about it.
I was trying to end on an up note here, Chris. What else you got?
But that was horrible to bring up, but. So I get to do that. I get to stretch. I get to go visit, meet new people, or they're not family at this point, but someone I
celebrate differently.
I love his family, yeah. And the other thing is my son's going out to California with his mom and his family, or her family. So that's going to be a new stretch. So this year is kind of a bad year for my traditions, because they're all off to the wind.
Or it's a year of new traditions.
Right. Well, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be traditions. It's just going to be we'll try it on.
Yeah, yeah. Can we be open enough to see how we feel about it?
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm in the wrong movement. I think it's now time to install metal detectors at holiday gatherings.
What was horrible is I'm telling this story and I'm laughing and then thinking, why am I even talking about this right now?
Yeah, we were thinking that too.
I mean, like you went from like National Lampoon to like the Inquirer in like Oh, yeah.
How about you, Eric? What's still I know you've already had the Nutcracker. The.
Yeah. Well, I mean Hanukkah. I mean like the interesting thing is ever since I became a single parent, every holiday season has been its own new set of traditions, and some of it has been depending on what romantic partnership I've been in, and this year looks to be even more different. Like I have no true idea what what this year has to hold. There were years where there was a thought that Mason, my son, was allergic to any tree that we could bring into the house, so like those so many traditions have gotten questioned and sort of scrapped, over the past few years. So, I'm looking at the calendar and thinking like New Year's. I have never been to New York City for New Year's, or at least to Times Square for New Year's, and I'm thinking about that one. I'm thinking about throwing the kids in the car and being that dad, that takes 3 kids to Times Square,
Yeah.
And I mean, this is La Nina, right? Like we're in this warm spell, like so it could be a 70-degree, New Year's. Who knows?
Right.
And so I feel like everything is up for grabs to establish a new tradition. But that being said, like I still think that there's yeah, I mean, there's not one thing that I'm doing this year that I did last year. So
it's all new.
Yeah, it is 100% new, and that's okay right now. I mean, it's not entirely okay. I go through periods where I'm like, I wish I just knew exactly what the drill was going to be, but that wasn't a choice I made. So yeah. But thanks for asking. I know firearms.
Bunch of downers you guys are.
Well, Jay, bring it back up on an up note. What about you? What are some traditions?
No, I'm going to add to the downer. I have surgery next week. I'm getting a new shoulder. That's my Christmas gift to myself is my new shoulder.
Wow.
I have to have my left shoulder replaced. So that is my. So we already did our visiting for Christmas. We went earlier in December up to New England because we can't travel. So I have an entirely new tradition of reading and watching movies, which I've never done. Because like Chris, like your family, I have a huge amount of aunts and uncles or siblings, and we all have kids, and they all get together, and it's a really big deal. And this year we just can't make it. But we just had a wedding, one of my niece's weddings. So we are all together in November, the week before Thanksgiving. And we have another one coming up in March, and we'll all be again together. And there's a lot of us. I mean, the reason why our last name is 40 is because there's at least 40 of us. We travel as a pack. And so it is going to be a quiet Christmas with just the 2 of us here and some friends that come over on Christmas Eve. But other than that, I'll be in a sling for 6 weeks trying to get this left wing back to normal. So, but to me, the new tradition is how do we take all the hype out of it and just be? Because I've never, in my entire life, with the big Italian family, ever just settled in and really thought about or felt what Christmas was about. There's so much preparation that here's one time where I can't. And that's really impossible for me to say, Chris, like you. It's just not do it is not an option. And but medically it is an option, and I'm a little bit excited for that. So It's a little bit
Like
different.
this.
Yes, surgery.
I'm gonna have an excuse to not get work done.
Yes, yeah. 2 weeks and no computer. I just, you know, we're talking about, you know, doing the voice stuff, but, you know, no, Amazon is sending a huge box of things to keep me busy. While I have a lot to think about and to read and to watch, and so it will be different, but I'm okay with different. I'm okay with different.
Right on. That's
awesome. Amazing. I'm looking forward to the book that you're gonna write in your head. That's gonna explode like out of you like 6 weeks later.
Yeah, as soon as that left arm is good, watch out! I gotta burn the print off the top of my keys on my keyboard.
Careful, you might burn it up too quick.
Yeah, I don't want to wear out that new joint.
Yeah, how many years did they give you on a new shoulder?
15.
Okay, yeah, that's what I've heard. For elbow, like, you know, I'm waiting on an elbow replacement until they can make it a 25-year guarantee.
Yeah, but you know, I'm imagining 15 years. So it took me 40 years to get it fixed. So I had dislocated my shoulder years ago, and we calculated it at the orthopedist. It was 40 years that I have been carrying a left arm that doesn't work quite right, and
wow.
Yeah, so it's time. So 15 years looks like no big deal. You know, if it wears out, then I can't imagine the world in 15 years is going to do the things that I'm going to have done next week. It just won't do it that way. And so my guess is I'll be able to just imagine it, and it will change. So so I'm not the least bit worried about obsolescence or wearing out. You know, I'm good. I'm good. It'd be nice to have range of motion and no pain. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Well, I've been visioning into a gadget arm, like, you know, if they're gonna go in and replace my elbow, like I want a blender in there, you know. I want attachments, you know.
Yeah, well, I like that. Yeah, like a KitchenAid mixer. You know. Yeah, just screw on the end here. Yeah, would you grind that out of the round roasted Hamburg for me? Yeah, sure. So.
Yeah, let's turn the energy around a little bit, because I feel like, you know, being is a gift too, like, you know, so like I'm sure, you know, a few weeks from now you'll be able to report back and say like, wow, you know, it was an amazing gift to just be, and it wasn't heavy, it was probably the lightest experience you've ever had, and you know, let's set that
intention for it too. I'm not one little bit of fear about it. I even watched the video, which I should recommend in the future. Never watch the video of your surgery.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know. I started because I just needed to know, and then it was like, you know, the horror movie where you're watching like this, where you, you know, I can't watch but I have to watch. I can't watch but I have to watch, and so don't do that.
Right. Well, it's
recommendation. Don't do that.
Like just to end on a comical note, but like I tell stories of how, like, with almost every child I've ever helped to come into this planet, I've fainted in some way, and so, you know, for Talia, my first, it was during labor and delivery class where they showed the video of the C-section, and it was me and 15 pregnant women, you know, watching this video, and I pass out, and so here's this 200-pound guy needing to be, you know, assisted back to a chair by 15 pregnant women, and that was one thing.
That of you.
Right? You know, and then when Mason was born, they lost his heartbeat for a while because he was choking himself with his umbilical cord. So I lost it and I passed out. And then, like, no sooner was he born than they hand him to me as they're, like, bringing me to with smelling salts, and they just put my brand new boy in my hands, and I'm like, I'm hoping I can still, like, you know, hold him, you know, let alone be conscious. And but, you know, fortunately my third came out as a C-section, so I didn't have time to get worked up to pass out. So, and I guess I'm glad I saw the video earlier, you know. So anyway, so yeah, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yeah, definitely. Happy holidays. Thanks for checking the Modern Day Council out. We'll be back. I don't know, probably not next week, right? Looking at the dates.
It's the 21st. I can do it.
24th?
21st.
The 22nd.
22nd.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, Tuesday. Yeah, it is the 22nd. I was thinking Thursday for some reason. Because I'm too distracted. So, all right. So we'll see you. Yeah, we'll be here next week. Excellent.
Awesome.
That's good to hear. And so yeah, we'll make next week a holiday specific episode. So stay tuned.
Sounds great. Awesome.
All right, cool.
Joe,